Hi friends and welcome back. It's been a wee bit since I've actually filmed a video. I took a little break from filming for a couple of weeks because I had a couple of videos sort of backlogged and ready to go, and it feels really weird to be sitting in front of a camera again. I feel like because I didn't film regularly over the time that I took a break for, I'm completely out of whack. But happy autumn time. It definitely feels really autumny outside right now. I went for a walk the other day on my lunch break from work and I was crunching the leaves on the ground. There was actually leaves blowing past me. It felt so autumnal and I felt like I was in an episode of Gilmore Girls. It was crazy. So I really hope that you're having a lovely autumn season. I also made an autumn cake yesterday. I made a spiced sticky ginger cake and it's amazing. I had probably way too much of it last night. And I'm trying to think of other things that I've done since the autumn has started. But going for autumn walks and looking at all the leaves changing and baking a cake have been the main two. I did get some lovely green bedding, which you can see behind me. So that to me feels very autumnal, and it will also come in beautifully handy at Christmas. And I have bought a couple of books recently. I have read on my bookshelves a few times, and I bought some new candles for the room. You can probably see them just behind me over there. I bought some new candles and some new candle holders, including this really adorable candle holder that has little ghosts on it. So cute. So I'm very happy with how cozy the room is looking right now. The bookshelf looks really dark though. I'm kind of tempted to get some fairy lights to string over the shelving, but I'm not entirely too sure yet. So if you think that's a good idea, pop me a message in the comments. I have also been absolutely loving cozy autumnal jazz playlists on Spotify, popping them up on the TV. They've got this beautiful artwork in the background and they do some really nice jazz music. So I've been doing a lot of journaling, a lot of reading and sort of planning over the last wee while, and a lot of it's been happening to that, so heavily recommend listening to that. But getting into the video, you can see I've got a couple of stacks of books behind me. You might not be able to actually see all of them, but there are a fair few. And what I thought I would do today is some autumnal book recommendations. So book recommendations for the autumn season, or the fall season as some may call it. Just books that I feel like give off a autumnal vibe. I am not a horror girly. I'm not a thriller girly. I don't like extra spooky books either. I love a light, cozy fantasy, or even if it is a little bit deeper, I don't like it to be really sort of gory, sort of anything to do with like horror at all. I definitely am a fantasy or a cozy fantasy girl. So those are the recommendations that I've got for you. I do have a couple on my lap at the moment, so we're going to start with those and we're just going to work our way through the pile, I think, and at the end we'll have a fair few recommendations, I believe. So let's get started. The first book on my list that I have is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I love this author's books. Six of Crows is actually one of my favourite duologies ever. I think it's so amazing, and I didn't mind the Shadow and Bone series. I weirdly preferred the TV show adaptation of it, but Six of Crows was 100% better in the books. And Ninth House is another series. It's a separate series that she has written, and I think it's really great. It's definitely giving dark academia vibes. It is about a girl who goes to Yale, and she basically gets a scholarship to Yale because she has to monitor Yale's secret societies, which are all very magical, which is right up my alley. I love a dark academia book. This is very borderline dark academia and it does have fantasy elements to it, so I would heavily recommend picking up this one. There is a sequel as well called Hellbent. I haven't managed to pick it up yet. It is on my list. I am going to Waterstones this weekend, potentially tonight because we have an ice hockey game tonight, but I am going to maybe go to Waterstones, and I would love to maybe pick up Hellbent and reread this and Hellbent for November because I feel like it's a very November book. The next book I have is actually a trilogy, and that is the Cursed Crowns trilogy. Now this is written by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. Catherine spelled 2 different ways for both people, which I think is hilarious. And these are really good, really good. The first one is, I would say, probably my favourite. It is about 2 sisters. They were separated at birth, they're twins. One is the princess and the other one is a witch. And the first book is all about how the witches are planning to kind of overthrow the kingdom. She kidnaps her own sister and the witch takes the place of the princess, and everything that goes down because of that. And it does lead on to the second book, which is also a beautiful, beautiful cover. And the third book, which I think is actually the nicest cover in the whole series. And we follow the 2 sisters all the way through, and they are absolutely fantastic. I would heavily recommend. They're very light. There's no spice in them whatsoever, so if you're not a spice girl or a spice person, I heavily recommend these ones. They are giving a little bit of like older middle grade or like older young adult, if that makes any sense. But they are a really nice read, and they're very cozy, and they make me feel very happy. So these would probably be a very good shout for the autumn season. The next book on the list is probably one of my favourite books ever, and that is Fable. Fable is a pirate book by Adrienne Young. Now, I love this book. She also writes A Sky in the Deep and The Girl the Sea Gave Back. I think that's what it's called anyway, but I love this one. So she is the daughter of a trader, and he basically abandons her on this legendary island, and she has to basically fight her way off. And it's all about sort of her becoming who she is, and it's absolutely fantastic. So if you love a pirate book, this one. And there is a second one. Second one is Namesake, and Namesake is just as good as the first one. So definitely add it to your list if you like pirates and water and mermaid-esque fantasies. And there is a romance in it, so if you're a romance pirate person, could be worth a shout. The next 2 books in the series are by Travis Baldree, and they are the Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust collection. I really, really hope there's going to be a third one at some point. I don't know if he's planning on writing any more. I genuinely don't know, but I really, really, really hope so. I love these books. They're high fantasy, low stakes, and good company. The first one is all about opening a coffee shop, and the second one is, I think it's like a prequel to Legends and Lattes, but it's about a bookshop, which you can probably guess from the title. These are so lovely. They are cozy fantasy with a little bit of romance. They feel very autumnal. They're very cozy, very fall vibes. They make you want to snuggle in a blanket. That is the only way I can put them. It's so nice to just get lost in almost like the mundane and building something and going on that journey of somebody building something, and the slow way they do it and the slow developments. They do have plots to them, and there is sort of like a subplot that has a storyline and something they have to always overcome, but it is very slow paced, very cozy, and it would just be so nice to curl up with a hot chocolate or a cup of tea in the evenings and just get lost for a while. I only have 2 of the next series, and there is 3, and that is the Atlas 6 series by Olivia Blake. These still have the labels on them. I never take the labels off my books. I don't know. I'm always scared it's going to ruin the cover, especially whenever they've got sort of that embossing gold shiny material. I always get really stressed that it's going to pull that off. So you can see it got £2 off this in Waterstones. So the Atlas 6 is, I want to say it's about magicians. It says magicians on the back, but 6 extraordinary magicians, 5 chances to win, 1 secret society. So it's about a society called the Alexandrian Society, and it is very dark academia. There are plot twists, there's bits of romance that go on. It is quite dark, and it did take me a while to get through, especially the first book. I haven't picked up the third one because I actually didn't really enjoy the second one, but they are beautiful, and I'll probably not get rid of them because they do look so stunning on my shelves. And I would like to maybe give them another chance at some point, but it definitely was, I don't want to say more wordy than I'm used to. I read quite fast-paced books, romantasy books. However, these were slower and you really had to think more about what you were reading because there is a lot of reading between the lines, guessing. It's like a mystery at the same time, but they are very, very good despite the fact that they are slow paced, and I would heavily recommend picking them up if you want something a little bit deeper and a little bit darker. Next we have a duology, and that is the Divine Rivals duology, which I have both of. I love a romance, and this is actually, so you have like fantasy books like romantasy, and they've either got a bigger focus on the fantasy side or the romance side. This is 100% a romance book with fantasy elements. It is about two rivals, and they work for, say, like a paper or a journalist, and they have started writing to each other through these magical typewriters, but they don't know that each other is at the end of the typewriter line, I guess. Like, they don't know who it is that they're writing to, and they hate each other in real life. And as you can tell, they don't hate each other for long. It is a romance book, and it does span over 2 books. These are beautiful artwork of covers. This one's extreme. I love this one. It looks like a heart almost at the front, the way that it's done. And if you want a romance book that's low on the fantasy, the second one's got more fantasy definitely in it than the first. However, the initial romance in this one, so good. So good. 100% recommend. Pick them up. Next we have one of my favourite books from last year that I haven't read the sequel to yet, but I am looking to read it before the end of this year because it is on my shelves, and that is Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. Alexandra Bracken is one of those authors that I had heard of but never actually read. She was someone that I wasn't really interested in reading, especially because I'm not a Greek mythology girl. I did like the Percy Jackson series as a kid, but that's about it. I'm not a Greek mythology reader. I find it really boring, and she did write sort of lore, which is on my shelves, and I would like to read it now I've read her other stuff. But this is like a King Arthur retelling, and it's so good. It's got dark magic in it, it's got action, there's curses, there's romance. 100% great. And I'm wondering if I maybe like books that are sort of like a King Arthur retelling, or kings, queens, kingdoms, queendoms, whatever. I'm wondering if I like them because I was so obsessed with shows like that as a kid. I remember watching Merlin on the BBC. For anyone who's living in America, that is a television channel here, kind of like a news and standard program channel. And I remember watching Merlin, which is about Merlin and King Arthur, and loved it. So maybe that's why I liked it so much. It took me back to that. But it was absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to pick up the second one. And if you're looking for just a really good curses, high stakes, romance, fantasy book, and you don't mind retellings, this is definitely a good one to pick up. So next we have a book that I actually didn't realise what it was about until I read it, and that's The Crimson Moth. Now, I was speaking to one of my friends, Molly, the other day, and she was saying that the vibe that it gives is not the vibe that the book actually has. So this is about a witch and a witch hunter falling in love. However, it is very light on the witchiness and very light on the fantasy. So to me, it's screaming Bridgerton, but a little bit darker and with some magic involved. It's giving like old-timey hangs the witches in the town square. It definitely looks as a front cover to be a little bit darker than it actually is, but it is a really good book. The romance in it is very light. However, I do like the way that it blossoms. So if you do like witch hunter romance, anything cat and mouse, mysteries, I would definitely consider picking this one up in the autumn. Next we have Feybound. The second one is actually coming out soon, and I'm going to read you a little bit from this one. So I think it's Uran. The way I pronounce characters in books is very different from what their names actually could be. She was born in the battlefield, lived on the battlefield, and one day she knew she'd die on the battlefield. As a warrior in the Elven army, she's known nothing but violence her whole life. Her sister, Ledel, is trying to make a living as a diviner, seeking prophecies of a better future. But a fatal mistake leads to her exile from the Elven lands, and both sisters are forced into the terrifying wilderness beyond their borders, where they encounter the impossible, the Fey Court. So the Fae in this one are, I don't want to say extinct, but maybe around anymore. They haven't been seen in millions of years. A while. They haven't been seen in a while. And it's all about them coming back in, and she realizes that the Fae, who are told that they're horrible people, they should be extinct, are actually not what she originally thought. So I love a good book that's got a bit of Fae in it, and this one was a really interesting take. So if you like fantasy books, this one's more fantasy than anything else. If you like fantasy books, pick it up. It's really, really good, and I can't wait till the second one comes out. Next we have Curious Tides. It smells like, I don't know how to explain this, but it smells like Haribo, and I don't know whether maybe I was eating Haribo when I was reading it, but it smells very fruity. That's a bit weird. So Curious Tides is about a society. It is dark academia with lunar magic, dangerous secrets, and it's about a school for, I would say, magical kids. It's kind of your standard magical school vibes. However, last year, the main character's best friend died as she was part of some sort of secret society, and there's so many weird things surrounding her death, and the main character now in this book is really wanting to find out what happened to her best friend. There is a little bit of romance in it. There is secrets, and it's a real turner. It's a real turner. It is a lighter dark academia than the likes of Get List 6 would be. However, it is a very, very good book, and this actually was one of my favourite. It was one of my top 3 books from last year. The second one actually comes out in November, so this could be a really good one to pick up if you want to read the newer books sooner, because it's coming out next month. And keep thinking about it. I think about it all the time, and I can't wait to do a reread. I think I'm going to add it to a reread pile before I read the second one next month. Next then we have Lore of the Wilds. This is another one of my top 10 books from last year, and it's by Annalay Sabrana. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. Here is the author's name down the bottom. So Lore of the Wilds is about a human girl who lives in a village, and it's surrounded by this massive ring of forest, and you can't leave the village, you can't go to the main city because the city belongs to the Fae, and the Fae are scary, they are horrible, they're mean, they're nasty. As part of saving her village, our main character, who is called Lore. So Lore gets chosen to go to the city, the main city, because the Fae can't get into their own library. There's a curse on the library, which means the Fae can't get into it. And the leader of the city, he wants her to go in and recatalogue the library because he's looking for something very specific. So this is sort of like a cozy mystery. And as you can see, there's 2 lovely male characters, so there is a wee bit of a love triangle as well. It is so cozy, and again, I think the next one comes out early next year, and I can't wait for it. So, next we have 2 books that I have read recently, and those are Tempest of Tea and The Spell Shop. These have been probably my top 2 books from this year so far. The Spell Shop is so good. I'm probably going to say this is my top book from this year. I cannot wait until the second one. The second one has been announced. It looks absolutely amazing. Look at the flying cats on the cover. So cute. I definitely cannot wait until the next one comes out. I have pre-ordered it already. I'm hoping that maybe Waterstones or a local bookstore will get some special editions in as well. I'm hoping maybe even Fairylit picks it up. So that'll be absolutely fantastic if I get some sort of special edition edges on there as well. If you love games like Stardew Valley, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Animal Crossing, you'll love this book. This is almost what Stardew Valley is like in a book itself. So it's about a secret spell shop that is created, and the premise is that it's a jam shop and she deals in spells as well. She is a librarian that runs away from her city after the rebellion kind of trashes the city, and she goes to the island where her parents are from, and it's all about her learning to open up to those around her. She tends to her garden. She has a sidekick, which is a spider plant who is sentient. I want a sentient spider plant. I would love that. My cat doesn't talk back to me, but a spider plant would. So absolutely recommend this one if you like cozy gaming. Stardew Valley, it really talks you through the exact process that she does everything in, and it's so wholesome. And then we have a Tempest of Tea. So our main character deals in secrets, and she has a tea shop in sort of like the slum district, and at night it turns into a blood adder, which is where vampires can go and drink blood, I guess. And it's all about when the shop is threatened, how far she will go to protect it. And there is a big twist in it towards the end. So keep an eye on that, because I actually weirdly didn't see it coming the whole time. And a lot of people say they do see it coming, and I just didn't. So maybe I'm gullible, who knows, but it is a good one to pick up for the autumn. So we're down to the last 3 books on the list, and the first 2 are by the same author, and that is R.F. Kuang. Apologies if I pronounced her name wrong. However, we have Babel and Yellowface. Yellowface is more of a less autumn vibe, but it still is really cozy and fun and sort of good for this season. So Yellowface is about 2 writers, 2 are friends. One is a very strong writer. She's quite famous. She writes a lot of books and gets a lot of press tours, gets a lot of money. And the other one is her friend, but is more struggling. And basically, and this isn't a spoiler because it says it in the blurb of the book and what the book is about. The richer one dies, and the less known author basically steals her manuscript and has to blab her way out of the fact that she stole someone's manuscript. It's all about plagiarism and the lengths that she'll go to keep the fact that she plagiarized a dead friend's book. So it's very good, and she kind of loses the plot a little bit. So definitely a good read. Lots of twists and turns. I didn't think I would actually like a book like this, as it isn't fantasy based, but I heavily enjoyed it, so would 100% recommend picking this one up. And the next one then is Babel. Babel is a found favourite for me again. It is very dark academia. So it is about someone called Robin who ends up going to Oxford, and it's all about steel wielding. It's a wee bit fantasy. It definitely has magical elements to it, but I would 100% recommend picking this up if you love dark, slightly fantasy-esque dark academia with rebellion. It's so dark and cozy. Everything feels like autumn. Whenever you picture the events that are happening in the book, you always imagine either it raining or it's autumn, and it's super cozy, so good to read under the light of like a bedside light or mood lighting. This one is a fan favourite of mine. I definitely want to reread this. I think it's perfect for this time of year because it is sort of dark and spooky and cozy. The mystery, it's got mystery elements to it, so I would definitely pick it up. And it's also beautiful. Look at this. And the last book that I have on my list then is God Killer by Hannah Kanner. Looks like this. How beautiful is this? So God Killer is about a girl called Kissin, and she kills gods, essentially. I'll read you a little bit of the synopsis of this one because it is a little bit hard to explain, and it has been a while since I've read it. How beautiful is that? So Kissin's family were killed by zealots of a fire god, and now she makes a living killing gods and enjoys it. That is until she finds a god she cannot kill, who is a god of white lies, and somehow bound himself to a young noble, and they're both on the run from unknown assassins. So good. So this one does have a second one, and I actually couldn't remember what happens in this one enough to the point where there's a hair somewhere and I can't figure out where it's coming from. I couldn't remember exactly what happens in this book to the point where I didn't buy the second one because the first one wasn't memorable, but now reading the synopsis or the blurb of this book, it definitely springs to memory what happens. So maybe I will pick up the second one. Maybe when I go book shopping next, this will be the book that I pick up, the second one in this series. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that your autumn is really going well. I definitely have a couple of plans that I want to do this autumn, which involve going for more autumn walks, going to my favourite coffee shops. I'd really like to go book shopping, and Alex, I think, is actually going to take me to his university this week, so that'll be really fun, and I'll be able to get into the autumn academia vibes as well. But I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you're having a really nice autumn season. And if you have any books that I haven't thought of that you think I should read in the autumn, please leave them below. But I hope that you have a wonderful next week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!